Well, good evening and welcome to the Big Bad Broadcast. We got a great show for you today, but we always have a great show, so nothing new there. And you can see us on the BBBradio.com.
Well, that's
you
right.
You can catch us on Strong Island TV, which is on Roku.
Which
is on Roku Cuckoo. It's on Fire Stick, Strong Island Entertainment app. And we're on VOD, whatever that is. Sounds like a little penicillin. Clear that right up. And we're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch.
We're like roaches. We're everywhere.
You can't get rid of us. But like I said, we got a great show for you today, so we're not going to waste any time. We have the legendary Dean of the Clan College from Long Island. We got Mike Reef.
Oh, yeah, baby. Let me tell you something. Today is something special, brother. Yeah. I love it, man. I'm real excited about today's show.
All righty. And, of course, me, I'm John Ferrantino. And we have Craig Mitchell. This is an all Long Island show today.
He's on probation.
He's got the cat.
He's the cat. And just bit me.
So, anyway, we got a great guest for today. It's a guy we all kind of started with. I guess he started after me, but according to Mike, Jesus started after me.
John performed at the Last Supper. What do you mean this is your body? It looks like bread to me. Hey, whatever. All right, a little trick. Who wants to see a
What's this big bang I'm hearing about?
Who wants to see a balloon cross? Okay, here we go.
You guys are so mean. Anyway, so we're going to let Craig do the honors here of introducing our guest, which I'm so happy we have on the show.
Yeah.
And we're going to have some fun, and we're just going to kick it around and tell some Long Island stories and find out what he's been doing.
Yeah,
take it away, Craig.
Yeah, our special guest today is somebody who, man, I have to say I started with him, but he left me in the dust. To tell you the truth, man. He's incredibly funny. I mean, as a stand-up alone, he's one of my favorites. He got some. We have some stand-up we're going to show right before we bring him on too. He's gone on to be a headliner, and he went on to be. See, I'm not sure if he's a showrunner or a head writer of The King and Queens, Kevin Can Wait. He's written and helped produce movies like Paul Blart, Mall Cop, and Here Comes the Boom. And he's just a really super funny guy, and we're really lucky to have him today. But I want to show some of his stand-up, which he sent, because he's now, I think he's starting to tour again. He's starting to do stand-up, which is great because I always enjoyed it. And here's a clip of him.
Because I was excited about my bachelor party, and I was like, oh, awesome, babe, the guys are throwing me this big party. It's going to be a blowout. What? No. You're not having a bachelor party. You're not into that. I'm pretty sure I am. I think I'm very into that kind of thing. She goes, you know what I mean? No strippers. If you need to see some girl dancing around naked, I'll do it for you. She'll do it for me. What a bachelor party that would be. Me and 15 of my friends in my apartment watching my wife-to-be dance for us. And our friends don't care. Our friends, they'd be happy we save money. They're like, move, dude. Power move. Much less expensive. Yeah, I never realized she had such a nice ass, man. Jerry, that is your daughter. What is wrong with you?
Let's hear it from Mike Rock Reuben. Come on.
Yeah. All right.
The best part about that clip was Adam Ferrara busting tables.
Man.
Is that the best when you tape something and then it's like I remember taping at McGuire's like a 45-minute set, and it came out great. And I go back home and I can't wait to watch it. It was VHS back in the day, pop it in. And the guy who was right in front of the camera must have got hit in the head. He had a gauze bandage with blood seeping out of it right in the front of the shot. The entire 45 minutes. You wouldn't even watch me. You were like, God, what's wrong with his head? What happened to his head?
There's a guy with an axe in his head right in the front row.
Pretty much. Yeah. So
whenever you go to tape any sort of stand-up spot, there's always something happens that you didn't count on, that you go, this is it. And then all of a sudden the camera wasn't on, or the battery died. Or how about when comics leave their cassette recorder in the back, or their little, I guess now they use phones, and you don't really dig the guy. And you're going, oh, this bit sucks. And you realize it's on the tape recorder. And then you gotta make believe like it's a bit. Yeah. Oh yeah.
No, we used to do that on purpose. There'd be a guy who went on stage, and even if he's somebody you liked, you'd be like, "Oh, this fucking guy sucks, man!" Like you just,
I know,
just
but sometimes it happens
on his recorder.
Sometimes it happens for real, and you have to make believe that it's a joke.
Absolutely. In fact, it's funny when on TV tapings, I would go talk to Kevin between takes or when they're fixing a light or whatever, and he's mic'd up. So we'd forget. We're like, Jesus, can you believe how slow this is? And you're like, oh,
that's it.
Don't
you hate that fucking producer?
I'm sorry. Did I mess up your intro? Were you a showrunner or just a head writer?
I was just a writer. They
I should say just a head writer. That's a pretty impressive thing.
I remember when I came down, I had an audition for the King of Queens. I walk in, and I don't know if you remember this. It was the first season. I think it was the first season. I walk in, I look over the side, and there's Kevin and Rock fucking rewriting the script. So I think you were more than just a writer.
Yeah.
Well, when I started out, I didn't go to school for writing. I no sense of grammar or spelling or handwriting or it was the furthest thing from my mind. I kind of fell into it. Kevin was kind enough to bring me in. I always liked writing when we did sketches and things like that. I love the writing part probably more than the performing part. So it worked out great. But I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning other than jokes. I could do jokes.
Right.
But in terms of storytelling and writing a script and all those kinds of things, I had to learn that, on the fly from good people. I worked with some great writers who were kind enough to kind of go, well, this is kind of how that works. And, eventually I figured it out.
You're like me. You're a punch man. More of a you can take something, look at it, and make it as funny or punch it up.
Yeah. I mean, and that, by the way, there's writing staffs. If there's 10 writers, they always want one or two guys. That's all you have to do. Like just guys that are going to bring the funny. And then you need people who can write a really good draft, and you need people who are good at ideas for stories. So it's kind of like putting a team together. 10 punch-up guys in a room, you have some very funny jokes with stories that don't make sense. So
exactly. Why is he chewing on a urinal cake? I don't get it. What happened?
Well, I have a urinal cake joke coming up, so I needed to.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I remember. It's really interesting when the show first went on the air. It was following the second coming of the Cosby Show. Yeah, and Kevin came back to Governors is doing a show. He came out to us and he was like, it's so good to see you guys because since I got a show, everybody's, asking me for stuff and I don't know who's a real friend and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, man, that sucks that happens to him. And I got like 3 or 4 auditions when I moved out here to California for the show. And people saying, hey, you should send an email. No. I'll get it on my own. It's no problem. I'll get it on my, and I never got it. I never got a part on it. And then Kevin Can Wait came up, and I went, you know what? I'm old now. I'm old, fat. I'm going to die soon. And I messaged you and said, I didn't want to ask. Maybe you guys can give me a part in Kevin Can Wait. And you went, sure. When you come to Long Island? I was like, don't.
Well, that's the thing. Like when we were in King of Queens was in California.
Yeah.
Right.
And whenever Long Island guys were out there, I used to say, or certain guys live there, we try to help guys out if we could. But it was always, there was no chance the network would be like, we want to put one of our buddies on and can you fly him in and put him up in a hotel for like a 3-line part, and they'd be like, not a chance. After a while, because we did put a lot of people, I don't know if you've recognized faces over the years, Craig, but a lot of people did the show. And
no, I always thought it was really cool that you guys did that. And I'm not disparaging it. Is that you were really magnanimous to me and said, sure, when are you going to be on Long Island? And I hate to fly. I'm like, oh, that's done. I'm not.
It's funny.
My mistake was I auditioned for the show. I think when in the first year when you guys didn't have any pull, I should have been calling you on the phone, going, "Hey, you go." But I don't see. I know how that works too, because like Billy Gardell is one of my best friends, and he had to. I got an audition for Mike and Ma, and I'd never call a friend for anything. So I went in and I read, and I told him afterwards because I didn't want him to feel like as a friend he had to do something for me. I hate that feeling, and I hate making. So he yelled at me. He was like, "What's wrong?" He goes, "Listen, I can't get you the part, but I can make sure you see producers, And so I learned the lesson there. You know what I mean? But it's nice that you guys were helping the Long Island guys.
It's very funny how that whole thing works. I remember in the beginning, before Reuben had King of Queens, I was hanging out with Ray.
Everybody loves Raymond.
Well, I was hanging out with Ray, and I guess Kevin had like a holding deal or something, and they were going to put him on Ray's show.
Yeah.
And they made like they didn't know each other.
Yeah,
not like they didn't know each other, but they weren't like buds. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, he had a deal at ABC first, Kevin, and then NBC, and then jumped over to CBS. So when CBS was going to put the King of Queens on, like starting to develop that, Kevin didn't have a ton of TV experience,
right?
And Ray's like, well, come here and we'll kind of introduce the world to you on our show. And they were pretty big at the time. So
I remember Ray telling me that I had to make like, I knew him but like we weren't really good friends because I didn't want them to go, oh, he's putting his friend on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. There's definitely pushback on our end too, because Kevin did it a lot to his credit, trying to get, we guys like, our group of Ferrara and Kevin James and Gary Valentine. And we would have never gotten out of the gate without guys like you, John, and, Mookie and Richie, Richie, especially, with his club. Like I remember doing the open mic nights and Richie saying, come do a Thursday. Hey, come down, do a Thursday.
Yeah.
I went on Thursday. I was like, oh, this is huge. I ate a bag of them. And I was like, oh, I'm just going to be an open micer. And Richie goes, hey, don't worry about it. Come back tomorrow. Come back tomorrow night. 2 shows.
Yeah, we were definitely blessed with the support we had on Long Island. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's not everywhere. As I've started to kind of go out in Southern California a little bit, I didn't do comedy for 17 years.
Yeah.
Not by choice. In the writer's room, you work pretty long, late night hours. And I was trying to book spots around town in LA and having to cancel them. And I'm just pissing people off. Yeah. So I would go, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, then I'd maybe do a little bit over the off season, then back to not doing it. And then finally, I don't even know when I didn't stop on purpose and I don't know when I stopped. So, I've gotten,
I'm glad you're back, man, because when we started out, you and I wasn't kidding. The cream really does rise to the top. And you know what? I still remember the fact that you could get you used to bring the house down with your bagel impressions. Do you remember? Of course, you remember that. The man did bagel impressions, and he would kill. And I'm sitting going,
all right, wait. Let's see your sesame seed right now.
It was like so inventive, and it's something that would never occur to me, and I always thought that was really cool.
Well, when you work in a bagel shop, things like that occur to you.
Plus, you would hand out bagels after the show. That was good too. Yeah.
I literally stopped doing it after a while because they had to be fresh bagels for every show. So I'd literally be driving around like, oh shit, I have no closing bit. Where's the Dunkin' Donuts? I need something.
Tell the truth though, Ed, you'd finish and then you bring the bagels back to the store and sell them the next day, right?
Oh, 100%. Bagel chips. We're making bagel chips.
I remember once, it's so bad when you have to get stuff for a show. I remember once I had to get a bag of marshmallows. I was with Hawthorne and we were going upstate and we had to stop at like 3 places to find marshmallows. And all of a sudden we're driving along and Dave goes, John, I am telling you that I am glad I am not funny depending on how well the local deli is stocked. Shut up, Dave.
Well, when I very, very first started, I didn't know anything about comedy. I think people starting comedy today know 40 comics. There's so many of them, and people are hip to it. I didn't know anything about it, so I had a bag of props, like small gym bag, and then I forgot them at a gig. And I was like, all right, that's the end of that. Like, I can't replace those items. But I used to watch you, John, coming in with setting up and the thing, because I was like, that must be so cool to be able to do magic and other kind of stuff and a whole big show. And then I'd watch you get there at 4, putting your shit on stage, getting a suitcase, packing it up, putting stuff over here, putting it over the,
Like that guy says, it's a bad Tom Waits song. And the old magician's packing his bag.
But yeah, but I do find that I don't see the same camaraderie. Like I haven't really I've done it for about 6 or 7 months, and it was hard at first to get back up to speed. And I'm kind of getting back up to speed a little bit.
Yeah.
But the camaraderie part isn't really there anymore, at least the places I've been. So
yeah, well,
it's not fun.
Yeah,
I
hear you.
Fun,
I just actually got on stage 2 weeks ago for the first time in like 3 years since the pandemic.
Oh, wow.
And before that, I was like you. I was kind of sketchy because I was doing a lot of acting and doing things, and I didn't see the sense of spending so much time in freaking comedy clubs. Being married, all that stuff. You don't want to. I'm not going to do the road and all that stuff. And now I want to start going back out again to the clubs and everything. And it's the same thing. Yeah, you kind of have to do what you did in the beginning. You have to hang out at the club all the time and make the friend. It's like it's almost at our age. Is it worth the effort? Like
especially the bigger clubs. Especially the bigger clubs. I mean, that's,
again, being the old timer, when we started on Long Island, right? There was the city guys.
That was right when Long Island
was right after the Last
ocean,
Supper.
right?
Yeah, it was right after the Last Supper.
Long Island had just come out of the ocean.
But anyway,
back when Rock Moses was only up to your knee.
It's the respect I get.
2 pterodactyls walking down the street.
This is the respect I get from my peers. No, what I'm saying is, like, when we first started, like, there was the city comics that all were kind of like, so where are you from? That all they did was talk to the audience, right? And then the Long Island comics, since we didn't have anybody ahead of us to watch, we just developed like idiots, like everybody, different, like Bob Nelson and Bobby Collins and Minervini, and everybody was just different.
Yeah.
So when the city guys would come out to Long Island, they wouldn't really do that well. And then the island guys would go into the city and crush because they were different.
Yeah.
And I think because we were like a group of like, not like everyone just, it's really different. I mean, I tell people now, it's like we would get in the car and we'd be driving to a gig and go, who wants to MC? There wasn't that MC middle
and the
thing.
City guys were all trying to be Seinfeld.
Yeah, they were all trying to be Seinfeld or Reiser or Paul Reiser. But what I'm saying is there wasn't that whole thing of that headliner middle MC. It was like, everyone was the same, and whoever MC got $20 more. That's why Minervini MC'd every time we went anywhere. But but that's the difference so everybody was like more like equals, if that makes any sense. So there was more camaraderie.
Yeah, well, like I noticed, like I was at a club in San Diego, and it's an open mic night. So a kid gets up with his cell phone and he has like not prepared for any, like, oh, what do I want to do? Oh yeah, nah, fuck that. He's looking at his phone, and nobody at the club or no comedians go, hey dude, like, it's really hard to get on stage. Prepare stuff. Don't go, boy, you guys are, like, literally he goes, boy, you guys are dead.
Yeah.
No,
but you see the difference though. The difference is that, like, for us, that guy will not be around in whatever, and those guys who are working hard they'll be around in 5 years. That guy will be, back at McDonald's,
But I will say one thing though. That's exactly what Chris Rock used to do at the comic strip. He would go up with his pad and go, no, that sucks. No, I don't want to do that one. But it's Chris friggin' Rock.
By the way, I've gone up with a pad too, but I go over what's in my pad. You know what I mean? Like,
it's not like the first time you're reading.
Yeah.
Well, and it's different if you're famous, if you're Chris Rock, or if you're some other guy.
Yeah,
I'm going to do this list of not that, not okay, because you're already established and accepted and famous and whatever,
No, Seinfeld always came out with a pad.
Yeah, but it was a maxi pad.
He came out with a yellow pad, put it on a bar stool.
Who was that?
Seinfeld.
Janine Garofalo did it the Chuckles. I remember her going up with a pad and put it in. She was looking at her set like that too.
Yeah, she should have kept that pad.
Oh,
pow, zing!
But you know what I miss? I miss, like you say, the old Long Island days when you can actually. Well, you got the long. First of all, the city clubs didn't pay because you couldn't make any money in the city. So the Long Island clubs, you had, I don't know if we're going to go through there. That was Governor's Chuckles, whatever. There were those.
McGuire's,
Konkoma, the ones you can actually make money. And then you go to the tri-state area. You could be a New York comic and actually make a living and never leave the tri-state area, because I had Connecticut, Rhode Island, all those. And I made a good living, never having it. I don't know if that exists anymore.
Now, at one point we had 7 clubs within a 40-mile radius. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I was banned in all of them.
You and Zabrowski.
That's what happens when you try to duck under the bathroom stall.
Exactly. But I got to tell you, when you talk about New York comics, this just popped in my head. At Eastside, when a New York comic would go on, we would go, "Oh, this guy's gonna suck," and we would sit in the back and go, kind of cringe. And this one guy came on, and he was terrible. I mean, he got nothing at all. And he went on to be Dave Attell, so you never know.
Dave Attell was a freaking genius. I used to go in the city and watch Dave Attell, and
he died on Long Island. And
he was a great act for comedians. He always did better with comedians than he did with a regular act because his stuff was so clever. How about the fact that what's his name was the dishwasher at Eastside?
Judd Apatow.
Judd Apatow. Yeah. And Richie called us all together and said, "Be nice to him. We think he's not all there." Richie actually said that to him. Richie goes, "I think he's like a little special. You better be nice to him, And then we go, "What?" He goes, "All he does is write around with a piece of paper, writing crap down. And he's friends with Hal Spear, and all they talk about is wanting to get laid." And, and he goes, and then Richie told the story on the air that one night Richie drove him home. And he says, "How you get here?" He goes, "I take a cab." And Richie goes, "Where do you live?" He goes, Richie goes, "I'll take you home." They get in the car and he goes, "Where do you live?" He goes, "Port Jefferson." Richie goes, "How much does it cost you in a cab?" He goes, $40 each way. He goes, "How much do you make?" He goes, $50. And Richie goes, "It doesn't seem like a good profitable deal for you." And he goes, "Yeah, I just love being around the comics." And that's when Richie thought there was something wrong with him.
No, he had this friggin'. I get that, man. I get that. In the beginning, I had that. I mean, when you, I'm sure you guys remember. I don't know if it was the same in Long Island, but see, I started in the city basically because I lived in Queens. So I mean, I would work all day, and I worked in a warehouse, and I would work in the friggin' warehouse all day, loading trucks, unloading trucks. Then I would have to get on a friggin' train and go into the city and sit there while 40 other wait for my turn. So you have to friggin' love. I believe to be successful, you have to love it. You have to be dedicated to it, And what I wanted to ask you, Rock, is now that you're performing again, our sense of humor. Like, do you find yourself writing the way you used to write for your stand-up, or are you writing like age appropriate? Like how do you find that?
Definitely have to go age appropriate. So I took all the stuff I had. A lot of it was shit, garbage. I threw that out. The things I thought were good all had to be reconfigured because it was like I just got married. I just had a kid. I just, my youngest kid is 16.
Right.
I've been married for 20 years. The newlywed thing.
Well, yeah, it's so weird because your sense of humor doesn't change. So I still write stuff like I'm 20 years old. But it's like it seems different coming out of a 60-year-old.
Well, and the thing is, you've been married 16 years. You go, "Hey, I just got married." People are going, "What's wrong with this guy? I just got married." You know what I mean? It's like, it's different. The other thing too, we're talking about camaraderie. The best times on Long Island was when your friend was on stage dying.
Mm.
And because I'm serious, because we were all such good friends. Nobody passed judgment. Like when you went to do a set in the city, it wasn't even like you wanted it to be a great set because you may not be coming back. But on Long Island, you could go up there and you could just, if you bombed, you bombed. Your friends laughed at you. You shook it off and you go, "All right, tomorrow will be another night," which is, I remember this is, you guys will appreciate this because Marling. I remember I practiced this trick for 6 months, right? And it was like linking coat hangers or something. And it was really hard trick because like rings around, there's no up or down. Coat hangers have hooks, right? So they all got to be done a certain way. So I follow the instructions, like practice this thing. You got to pick them up cold. You got to do it. So I go to do it the first night. I have it marked on my calendar and I'm about 3 minutes in. It's a 6-minute bit and it is going nowhere. And there is nowhere to get off the train. right? And I know I got to be doing this for another 3 minutes, and I am in Governors, and I can feel the sweat rolling down my back. And all of a sudden, from the dark shadows of the club, I hear Martling yell out, "Hey, brother, don't give us all your A material. Throw us some filler."
By the way, if you want to take Rock out of the big box, I mean, this way right. he can like sweep his hair back and not.
Do I need to sweep?
No.
I have a funny story of you guys. I think will appreciate this about your friend's bombing. I was in a club in Boca Raton with Gary Valentine, and we were co-headlining. So we kind of weren't really at that headliner phase yet, but together we could get through it. So Gary gets a gig out of the blue. We're in Boca Raton down in Fort Lauderdale at the Sunrise Music Fair. It used to be called anyway, to open for Styx, the rock band.
Nice.
So
that's a huge, if you guys don't know, it's a huge arena.
Yeah, it's an arena.
It must be a little daunting for a comic to get a gig like that.
Yeah, so Gary's excited. So we're going to get him a car from Fort Lauderdale and race him to our show. So I had to go on not knowing when he's going to get there. He was going to close, but I might have to do an hour. I might have to do, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I really started getting nervous about it before the show. Like, I could picture Gary having a beer with Styx and like, yeah. So anyway, you know, who knows what's going to happen. So I get nervous. I get on stage. I decided to do all of Gary's bits.
Oh,
I knew almost. We've worked together so many times. The wait staff, I'm killing, by the way, with his bits that I never did before. And the wait staff and the bartenders, I could see them from stage in tears. I have everybody in tears laughing. So I'm supposed to get a light. So I thought I'm supposed to do 35. Gary showed up around 40 minutes or so. So I get the light and I transition into, might have been bagels or whatever my closing bit was. I see Gary walk in the club and I go, all right, well, let's meet your headliner tonight. He's blah, 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 Gary Valentine. He comes out, starts doing his jokes.
Oh, no.
And the audience is looking at each other. And Gary doesn't know. He just came from an arena, you know what I mean, with 5,000 people, whatever it was, in a car racing here. And so he doesn't know what's going on. He does his next bit, nothing. And the audience is like getting angry. And someone goes, why are you doing all the other guys' jokes? And Gary says, what do you mean? He goes, all the jokes you're doing, those are the other guys' jokes. Why are you doing them again? And he goes, oh. And now he realizes I fucked him. So now he has to go and do this bit? And he's doing my bits for 35 minutes, you know, and improv.
Did I tell you about a Dick Shap?
Yeah. But it was so fun. But you can't, I don't know if that's.
You can't do that now.
No.
I remember once we were working upstate New York and Martling called and said he was going to be late. So Woodsy gets on stage and tells him, listen, when this guy goes up, he goes for the first 5 minutes, he goes, check out your watches. I want you just to laugh at everything he says, even the setups. Just applaud and just go crazy. And then at 5 minutes, don't laugh at anything at all he says for the next 5 minutes, right? So he goes up there and he's killing it. You see Marley, he's got that look on his face, like, oh, yeah, I'm God, you know? And then he hits that 5 minute, and there you can hear a pin drop. And he goes off on the crowd. He starts telling they're assholes and blah, blah, blah. And now when the 5 minutes is over, he can't get them back. They hate him.
That's so
and Woodsy's just in the back cackling.
Oh man, we've done shit like that. I remember when we were in, and talking of Gary Valentine, God, I think the last time I worked with him is in Lake Hapatcong, New Jersey, at the Upper Deck, like 30 years ago. I
remember that place.
But I remember we were talking about Florida. We were in Florida at a place in I forget what the hell it was, but it was like a whole bunch of it was one of Labriola's shows, and so we had Al Romero was on, and we just decided to fuck, because Al's one of those guys that, you know, he's been doing the same material by rote for fucking, you know, 100 years. And so it's like we all sat down in the audience and we started yelling shit at him. Like he'd say, you see that whatever I did. And I go, I do that. Wow, that's so funny. I do this, and we all just and you could just fucking see his head about to explode because he's that guy that can't step out of his act,
Speaking of Gary Valentine, when we all kind of started at the same time, it was me, Steve Strangio, Rob Graydon. We got booked at Betty's Fireside. And we thought this is, it's universally the hell room on the East Coast. So we thought to ourselves, we should do improv, which is a genius thing if Betty's. And we brought Gary. And I remember because Gary's in the car, we're driving there. He had these white baseball pants on, right? And Steve goes, this is going to be a tough gig, man. You'll probably come out of this and you'll have blood stains, but it'll be fun. And we went on, and it was a disaster. It was like give us a location, go fuck yourselves, that kind of shit. It was terrible. And and Gary was jumping all over the stage, and when he jumped, it was like a rug because it was like where the dancers used to dance. He scraped his knee, and we're in the car, and there's a huge blood stain on his pants. And Stranger's like, I told you there'd be blood.
And that's the only laugh they got that night.
Hey, Mike, do you remember?
Oh man,
you mentioned
it was that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Craig. Do you remember? You mentioned Lake Hopatcon.
Yeah.
Did that have a really low ceiling?
Yes, it did. Yes.
Okay, that's the place. So I did a show there. It was it could be a great room.
It was, yeah, but it did have a low ceiling.
I'm doing like 45, and I'm about 35, 40 minutes in. And I did a bit where I did Pete Townsend reference or an improv. So I did the air guitar, and it was stucco on the ceiling.
Oh God!
I raked my knuckles off on the thing, and I was like, "Ow!" And I put my hand on my side, and I could feel blood dripping down my fingertips. And I'm at like 38. So, and I just decided I'd put it in my pocket. But some girl up front goes, "Ew, he's bleeding." As I'm putting in, she goes, "Ew, he's bleeding." Only they saw it, and then I did the rest of my show. All my knuckles would. I'll never forget Lake Hopatcon for taking my
it's
knuckles.
so true though. The show must go on, right? No matter what the hell happens, the show must go on. Yeah, it did have a little because I remember that. I do remember always having to be aware, and I think I worked there with Chips Cooney too, and he had this thing, and whatever, and we always had to be ultra aware of the friggin' ceiling.
I remember a gig that we had, Mike. This had to be 1988. It was New Year's Eve. I was over at McGuire's, and I drove over to Joker's Wild because you were working over there with Gary. I think it was Rob Graydon, and because he said, "Hey, after your gig, come over here. We'll do improv. Whatever we're gonna do." And when I got there, you were fighting with the owner of Joker's Wild because they didn't pay you, and you were going off on him. It was like, "I'll tell you something, Jerry." He was going off on him. I'm like, "What the hell's going on?" It was a total disaster.
I don't remember that 100%. I mean, I remember two fights on New Year's Eve. One was at Joker's Wild.
Yeah.
And one was at McGuire's, both on New Year's Eve, where I wasn't in the fight, but John Ryerson at McGuire's, there was a guy who was so drunk sitting there heckling the other comics, and I came out and I just buried the guy. And everybody was like, thankful that somebody shut this guy up. And it just made him angry. He was doing his free drinks all night. And they're like, shut up. And he said one more thing to me. I made fun of him. He starts to come at me on stage. So the whole Chris Rock thing is not new.
Yeah.
Wow.
All these people on stage, I pick up the mic and I have to stand and I'm like going to plunger him in the face with it. Ryerson comes from behind, grabs the guy, goes outside, and gets into a fist fight with the guy. Ryerson comes in, all his buttons on his silk shirt are ripped off, and he's got blood all over, not his blood, like he just tuned the dude up. And then the same thing happened at Joker's Wild, both on New Year's. I was like, all right.
Yeah,
that's comedy, man.
Jokers, they threw something through the window. Somebody got thrown out.
Yeah, that was the same night. Then they beat the shit out of him. Jerry and the bouncers beat the crap out of the guy.
I remember one night at Eastside, right? The best part was in the dressing room waiting to go on, right? My two favorite dressing room stories are the night that Max Alexander comes into the dressing room covered from sweat. His shirt opened up. He actually sweat through his suit jacket. And I go, Max, were they bad? He goes, he looks at me and he goes, oh, bad? Let's just leave it on. I did every joke I ever heard in my life and had to dance a bit. And then the other one was Woodsy went on and got a standing ovation. I mean, he just killed. Wow. And he walks off stage. He walks in. He's all puffed up. So I go, did you go on yet? Oh. He goes, follow that.
I used to love to get a guy come off stage and he just killed, and you go, yeah, don't worry about it. Walk it off. Just walk it off, man.
They're not. Don't go by them. Don't go by them.
So what's driving you back on the stage? I mean, just because, I mean, I didn't want to do it again. I'm going to get back into it because I just want to feel that creative energy. I mean, is there a purpose? Are you doing
a little bit of that? Yeah. The weird part about going from comedy where you write the jokes, you perform the jokes. If you suck, it's your fault. But you get that instant feedback of laughter most nights. In a writer's room, you write a joke in April, and then maybe in May, you watch it on TV with the audience laughed at it maybe, but you know what I mean? You don't get any feedback. So you start to, depending on the writer's room you're in too, if it's not the vibe of the showrunner.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's not it. Then you start thinking,
to lose your confidence a little bit.
I'm not funny. Maybe I'm not funny anymore, Yeah.
Remember Tommy Chong told us when they wrote that bit, Dave's Not Here, and they thought it was the funniest bit, and they called everyone into the table to go, this is our new bit. And he goes, and they're hysterical laughing, and they play the bit, and everyone at the table looks at him and goes, that's not funny. And it was like their biggest bit they ever had,
I know. Imagine telling Cheech and Chong anything they do is not funny. Come on.
Well, you do have a lot of makers, a lot of people that get their hands in the product in TV, especially.
Yeah.
And, we've written a script and there's a joke we loved in the room, and they get to see the script before we shoot it. And they're like, can you have a better joke than this? And we're like, that's really funny. Like, let us do it. We literally sometimes you have to beg, let us do it. We'll have a backup, but there's a feeling, I think, sometimes of like we gotta put our fingerprints on it and change things.
Yeah. Well, do you have
you do two shows?
I'm sorry,
right? You tape twice.
We do one. I've only done one. I think Friends did two.
Right.
It's a lot. Even just doing one is minimum 3 hours.
Yeah.
And we work fast. Some shows would be 4 or 5 hours. The audience leaves. You kind of want to. Kevin, luckily, coming from stand-up, knows there's a window where these people are going to laugh at us, and then they're just going to be statues.
Tired. So, they're going to be burnt out. Yeah.
Right.
So we would try and do anything we could. Sometimes we'd pre-shoot certain scenes that weren't super funny or weren't in front of the audience. We just kind of bang that out during the day so that we just roll that back for the audience. So we kind of minimize, the time of their
that makes sense.
Sitting in a chair.
I always wondered how the writers felt about me on a couple of shows. I mean, it's like being that I whatever. I would improv some stuff as we were going, and I'm sure the writers probably hated it, but actually a lot of it, like I had one of the home improvements I did when, the thing, and I improv this whole thing about, you're whatever, and they loved it. They were like, do more of that. And then I did a episode of the Hughleys where it was in a bar. And, the wife comes in and she, I'm drinking, I got a drink, I'm drinking something. She goes, oh, I'll take one of those. So I just, and I hand it to her, and they like leave that in. But as a writer, did you get that? And did it piss you off?
Everybody's different. There's certain showrunners, like if you change a word, they're going to humiliate you,
Really?
In the middle of a rehearsal or God forbid a taping.
Yeah.
They're just going to be furious. And then there's others like, Kevin comes from doing stand-up. So sometimes it would take 6, 7, 8 takes of the same scene. For whatever reason, the camera wasn't right.
Yeah.
The line got muffed. To sit and watch the same scene 7 or 8 times, you're like, the audience could do it at that point.
I know.
So Kevin was always big on what we call them second takes, alternate jokes. So there were times where the audience, because it kept them in the game because it wasn't the same words over and over.
Right.
Oh, a new joke. Oh, that's a new joke. So Kevin from improv background and things like that, he loved to keep it fresh because it kept him fresh.
That's
his
smart.
performance.
That's good thinking. Yeah.
And energized. So it was all okay on our show. There was kind of the showrunners, depending on who it was that I worked with, were like, let's just get one take as written, so we have it for multiple reasons. Sometimes a line that you change affects something way down the road and you didn't think of it in the moment. So at least we have it if we need it. And then after that, have fun. If actors have stuff. Generally, it took me a while because as a guy who my game plan was I took Joanna Bexon and I was going to be a fifth banana on a sitcom.
Joanna, yeah.
or a guest actor, and you have to understand as a writer, my job is to service the stars of my show.
Right.
So the guest cast, it's like your job. It's like a good pinch hitter. Like if you're supposed to get up there and bunt, just bunt, get the runner over, but it's all about the stars of the show.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so, sometimes I think as comics, I know I would do it. I'd be like, well, I could win the day here with a big laugh if I do something. You could. You'll probably be fired.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to.
Well, the things that I did were in the moment. It wasn't like I thought of it and I
That's
said,
fine.
"Man, I'm gonna go." Whatever. It was like it. And fortunately, it was for shows that were run by comedians. Well, the Hellman put Tim Allen, the Hugleys, D.L. Hughley, and it wasn't something I had pre-thought and go, I'm going to try this because, I want more, whatever. Because generally when I'm on the screen, that's enough attention. I'm, when people, but it just in the moment, being that improv, that comedy, you don't think you lose. And as a decent, I think a good actor, you get lost in the part. And yes, you have to hit those words and everything. But every now and then, if it was a comedy, I would, do that little improv and,
I personally, I like that because it's real. So things happen. Like the best auditions, I got lucky being in auditions, watching auditions and seeing 20 people or 19 out of 20 people do it kind of the same way, kind of as written. And then there's one person that comes in with like a weird energy, or instead of hitting the parts that everybody else hit, they hit other parts. And you just watch it and you go, that's way better than what we wrote. That.
See, that's where I want to, that's where we should pick your brain. I don't know about these guys, but man, give me the inside in the room, give me tips to do, because I'm planning on going back out there and auditioning for stuff, from your side. Give me the tips from your side of the table.
Yeah. It depends on the part. Sometimes like we've had edicts that the head of the network likes blonde women. So you might not get it because you're brunette. Literally, I did a pilot that way. That didn't go, but
wow,
he wanted a blonde, and we liked the brunette for the part, and everybody agreed she was much funnier, but he wanted the blonde. So he's paying my paycheck. So sometimes it comes down to that. Sometimes it comes down to, like if picture, Kevin's like, I don't know, 5'9". He's not a super tall guy.
Right.
But if he's playing a part in a scene where he's a bully-ish kind of energy. Well, you don't want it to be, maybe it could be. Yeah. Maybe it is funny if he's 6'9".
Yeah.
Those visual things to look for, So
yeah.
Sometimes it's it comes down to a look or an energy that people bring that's kind of different and fun.
Yeah, you can't put your finger on it. I read back when I was in New York. I read for Spin City, and I read with a casting director in their production studios or wherever. I think it was in somewhere in the city, and they said, "Can you wait for us?" And they came out and said, "Would you read with the producer?" I'm like, "Yeah," because I'm like, "Oh, this is great." And the producer was Michael J. Fox. So I read with him. He laughed. They laughed. I'm like, "Dang!" I walk out and the Tom and Jenyo, right?
Sure.
He calls me on my phone rings when I'm out in the street. I'm like, I got it. He goes, "Yeah, you're too tall." I'm like, "Oh man," because Michael J. Fox is 5'4",
Yeah.
Yeah. Normally they would. The way when I've worked, the casting director, like when we were filming on Long Island, was in the city, so we didn't do live auditions. We would get tapes, and they would read down 300 auditions to 8. Their favorite, but they kind of know what you like. So we don't even see, 99% of the auditions.
Right.
So like when you were saying, Mike, I figure I'll just get it the way I happened to see you in the office that day. Again, I was a rookie, but I didn't know. Like I didn't know how many times anybody auditioned or who auditioned. So it helped. A phone call would help, if it works out. If you're in the city that we're filming, a part comes up. It's usually last minute because when we rewrite the script on a Monday, sometimes parts go away. We don't even cast the actor for Mondays usually if it's a smaller part because it could go away. The scene changes. It's a different type of character.
Right. Yep.
So we need somebody on Monday evening for Wednesday to start rehearsing, to be there. Yeah. So it, it's a lot of it is luck and who's around and who we could, help and,
Yeah.
I got a question. Was there a big difference filming on Long Island than in California?
Well, the number one
3,000 miles.
3,000 miles. The network, Kevin said, I'll do a sitcom if I could do it on Long Island. And I think CBS always thought, we'll convince them to do it in LA because all their infrastructure, all the people that come to your rehearsals, the executives that critique they're there, or if there's a problem, they can send people there. We're 3,000 miles away, and they like to know everything that goes on, and they weren't happy about it. It costs 25 to 30% more to shoot in New York, so it's way more expensive. So we had a bad energy from day one because we were filming there. So that's a big one.
But Kevin was happy, right? Because he gets to go home.
Oh, he was 20 minutes from his house, which, hey, he earned the right. But things in LA, like if you do a detonation of something, in LA, they have people like literally on the studio or they're so used to doing those kinds of things. When we filmed it in Grumman, we had to have the fire department there. We had to have police officers. We had to have the bomb. Like, it's a huge cost because they're not used to that kind of thing. At least, 5 years ago. Maybe now they're starting to get more infrastructure. But prop houses, set warehouses, things that you can just go and like. We need a bar in LA. They'll send you pictures of bars that they've already made. That was on the Cosby Show. That was on King of Queens, and they just keep. But it's built. It saves a lot of money, and there's just less of all that in New York. So,
well, along those lines, and forgive me for not knowing this because were you a writer on the crew on the?
I was, I was a writer on that.
Now, that must have been when you talk about advisors and people on set. That must have been really heavy with that.
Yeah, NASCAR was a producer of that, so we had to run everything through them. There were certain things. They were very non-invasive and they were very cool people to work with. But like we wanted to have an episode where the driver got a concussion and was hiding his symptoms and was going to race. And they're like, we can't ever imply that we would put a racer on the track with a concussion.
Right.
So fair enough. We just changed that episode. But I knew nothing about cars. Nobody did. We had one writer that the showrunner knew who was a NASCAR guy, a mechanic, fixing motorcycles and cars. So I would write my script and then I would need car mumbo jumbo. That's what I would call it. And I'd show him the scene. I go, hey, Will, I need some mumbo jumbo here, that makes sense about the cam shifters and the Flemish dance and he would just fill it in and everybody's like, oh, that's perfect. That's exactly what we would do in that situation. So
it's like in Star Trek, they would call it technobabble when they're talking about the phasers and
I again know nothing about that either. So
got any projects coming up?
I've been working on an idea for like a year. It's a long process, but just trying to get nowadays you kind of got to pull talent and directors and, even as much as you can, social media and, actors with social media and products. You just got to put a lot together.
Just letting you know, man, I'm available.
All right. Fair enough.
With my huge social media following, I don't think.
Yeah, it's really hard to sell stuff unless you have somebody big attached to it now.
Yeah, well, that's what they want. It used to be you just would bring the idea, and then
and then they would
other people would do it. Now it's like, all right, well, who's the star?
Yeah,
right.
Well, I have 19 followers, but they're very loyal.
Well, that's like.
Then when you go to a big agency, they want to put together a package. Like CAA wants like all their CAA guys. I just know my daughter's a writer, and you know,
it's like I went for an agency. This was a couple of years ago, and they had represented me for commercials as Abrams artist, and so I go in to meet for them theatrically. And the guy says, "Well, are you coming off a big movie?" I said, "No." He goes, "Are you on a sitcom?" And obviously he knows the answer. I said, "No." He goes, "Then he goes, well, we can't." I'm like, wait a minute. I want you to help me to get on a sitcom or to get in a big movie. Nobody wants to work anymore. They want to just freaking wait till you hit and then,
it's
then
all about revenue.
Guide your career. Give me a break.
Yeah, I want revenue.
That is what it is, and it's kind of unfortunate, but it's
like the comedy clubs. Comedy used to attract an audience. Now you have to bring as a comic, they want comedy. Oh yeah, no, you can get 10 minutes to stage time. You got to bring 40 people, but
bringer shows are big now. That's you talking about going back to stand up. Bringer shows, even at big clubs, happen, and also if you want to go to an open mic somewhere to work out stuff, you're just doing it in front of 5 other comics who are on their phones, not listening to you. Yeah. It's really rough to start.
But if you can make those 5 laugh, you're fucking good.
I'd have to strip naked for that to happen.
Yeah, it's weird. Like what I find out here is they have comics are all getting rooms. Like this could be the shittiest room in the world, but you get a room or two. So now I book 2 rooms. I call you up, Craig. Will you put me in your 2 rooms? I'll put you in my 2 rooms. But the shows, it's all about getting on stage, but the shows suck. They're not paying comics. It's kind of open micers.
And the audience isn't coming back because the shows are terrible.
We kind of went through it in the 90s with all the TV comedy, all the clubs opening up, all the one-nighters opening up. And there wasn't enough good comics to fill these things. So there's a lot of shit comedy. Yeah. And comedy just went in the toilet because it's like shitty.
Well, my theory on that has always been like the clubs that, like you said, like clubs were just packed in the late 80s because people were going to comedy clubs. But the clubs that maintained keeping a decent roster of people coming to the club, those clubs are still in business. Mm-hmm. Like Governors, the Improv, some of them, whatever. But the people that we just put anybody up because we're going to be packed anyway, they've all gone by the wayside. And then when they were going, well, during the 80s, because I'm more guilty than anybody, there's too much comedy on TV. Well, yeah, because they were baby boomers and people would stay home because they knew the comics because they used to go to comedy clubs and they could see them all at 11:30 on Comic Strip Live. They could see 5 of the comics they knew for free or go to a comedy club and see crap. You know what I mean? And that's why a lot of it, just kind of fell by the wayside. But I think now it's building up again, right?
Yeah, it has, but it's like I've seen a lot of bad shows there too because it becomes about, this guy is a lesbian, trans, triracial,
like a midget
and a midget, and you go and it's like it's great. I'm all for diversity, but find experience.
I'm all for diversity except those midgets. No, fuck that.
There's a bunch of little people, Mike.
Yes.
Well, I like them. You stack them on top of each other. You get a lot of talk.
Oh, man.
Hey.
It comes to the point where I'm a 62-year-old fat gay man, and like, well, if you were non-binary, we could use you. I'm like, what the hell? I mean, how diverse do you want? And it's like insane. Yeah, I absolutely understand that.
Yeah, it's funny because obviously in Hollywood and writing, old white guys, it's really hard to get anything going. As you know. But I have a friend who I wrote with who's gay, but he's white. So I go, well, you must be getting jobs. And he goes, no, they said gay doesn't count.
No, it doesn't.
If white trumps gay, I guess that's how the hierarchy goes.
Yeah, it especially doesn't count if there's a woman casting you. Then I've got no weapons. Then.
So what you're saying is I'll never work again.
You got to figure out a way to get in there, but you got a good look. You
need a gimmick, Mike. You need a gimmick, Mike.
You got to have a gimmick.
I gotta figure it out. I don't know. Maybe I'm a mechanic. Something like that.
I drive rideshare for my survival job. About 3 years ago, I had a casting director in my car, and we were talking. Oh, you're an actor? I go, yeah, but I'm not getting a lot of auditions. She goes, yeah, you're the wrong age and you're the wrong color. That's what she said to me. I'm like, I can't believe you said that to me. Come on.
Yeah,
but,
no, it's.
She didn't mean it maliciously. She meant it's just not what's hip right now.
Yeah. Well, that's why I wrote my own sitcom. What I got to do is sit down and film like a teaser or whatever what do you call it, like a few minutes of it, because nobody has an imagination, so you have to film it and show people.
A sizzle reel.
A sizzle reel. I need to shoot a sizzle reel.
Yeah, I mean, it all comes down to also. I'm sure you've seen it at the clubs too, like social media. TikTok stars are headlining comedy clubs.
Oh my God. Right. And this must fucking anger the shit out of you because it really pisses me off. You see them and they're doing some stand-ups material and they're not giving them credit and they're getting, 10 million views. They're doing, Rock Reuben's material, Mike Green's, whatever. And they're, and then you go out and do the material and they're like, oh, you stole that off some guy on TikTok.
Well,
yeah, I worked with a guy at Governor's. I popped in one, and it was a TikTok star headlining. So I went, let me see what a TikTok star looks like. And he talked about his channel or whatever, his characters and all that. And then he started doing stand-up. It was like 45 minutes of like, you ever sit on the toilet and you're taking a shit and you're literally coming off the bowl and then you're like, you look at it and you take a picture of it and it's like corn and you're like, when did I eat corn?
Yeah. Oh my God.
And it was like, he did fill the place, sold out, but
that shit was hacky 40 years ago.
No, yeah. And in his defense, he's offered a good chunk of change because he could fill a room. So he's got to do something, but it's the old,
I'd still garrote him after the fucking show. I don't care. Then I would get his TikTok on. Here's the guy that garroted you.
The interesting thing is
there are some funny impressionists on TikTok.
There are.
Material,
true. There are.
No, I'm not saying it's all bad. There are some very talented people making some really great content.
Like Bo Burnham.
You see guys lip
Bo Burnham is hilarious. Great.
So, hey, listen, look at your watch. I think we really got to go.
We're over an hour.
Right up there.
Yeah.
Right up against.
Man. We got to have you back because we didn't even get into the meat of talking about it. It was like it was so good to see you, man.
Good to see you guys, and it's been a long time, man. I'm happy to see you guys.
That's what we like doing. It's like hanging out with friends.
Yeah,
it's cool.
Exactly. No one commented on my backdrop.
I hope you get over the COVID there. Is that the COVID? Yeah. We were so
I thought it was a floral arrangement.
No, he's got the COVID.
You don't have COVID now, do you, Mike? No.
A little penicillin gets rid of that. Oh no, that's something.
That's not COVID. No.
I have a shot of bleach every morning.
Beautiful. And then I shove an ultraviolet ray up my ass.
You know that I did read today, because we can cut this off because it's a little political. I did read in the paper today, and this was in Politico, which is kind of right wing, that 74% more Republicans got COVID than Democrats.
That's it's that whole stupidity with the mask thing. Because
when they refuse to wear masks.
It's like I have not gotten COVID once, and I've been on a plane, I don't know, 4 times since the pandemic, gone out to restaurants, done all kinds of stuff, but I always wear a mask. And I haven't got sick. I don't know. Maybe I have that blood type but I haven't gotten sick once. But I know some people that have had it 3 times.
It's like that. It's like that old Richard Pryor bit. Like fire jumped on him and went, it's like COVID jumps in and goes, so I'm not fucking with this guy.
I scared away the COVID. Come on, COVID. Okay.
All righty. Well, listen, we could be talking here for hours, but we are out of time. Let's thank Rock Reuben for being here today. It was great seeing him. Hopefully he'll come back. And we have Mike Grief.
Oops, sorry.
Nice.
Look at it. Nice.
Nice,
Look at those
nice.
guns. Look at those guns.
Those are 60-year-old guns, baby.
And we got Craig
He's doing the show
Mitchell. We got
from
Craig Mitchell.
Vasquez Rocks too. So
That's for Rock Reuben. Vasquez rocks.
oh, there you go.
And we have Craig Yoda Mitchell. I'm John Ferrantino. You can catch us on the BBBradio.com. You can catch us on Strong Island TV on Roku or Fire Stick or any place else. We're everywhere. We're on YouTube, Facebook, and
We're in your
all
sister's
over.
bedroom. Catch us
we're
there.
all
Don't
over.
worry about it. All right.
All right, so let's say goodbye. Thank you, Rock. Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you, guys.
And
Good
see you all
seeing you.
next week.
That's right.
Bye-bye.